What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and a lot of people have been hitting me up saying they wanted this interview, and thankfully it has arrived. Today we are joined by Stan the Guitar Man. Thank you for coming through, man.
Thank you for inviting me, man.
So
Appreciate
Stan, this is like an amazing moment for me because as somebody that grew up loving, studying, and being enamored with rap and knowing who you were, but never having met you over the years, never interviewed you or nothing, and then you know, you saw us in the comments and hit us up, and I was like, "Yo, is this really him?"
That's right. Yeah.
So that's very exciting. So thank you for coming through, man.
Man, it's my pleasure, man. You do a great show. I like that.
Well, thank you, thank you. So for those that know, Stan the Guitar Man has worked with dozens of the biggest artists in music, period, not just rap. So today is only going to be, you know, part one. Stan and I have already talked about this. He's going to have to come back again because there's way too much to cover just in one interview. So without further ado, I do want to get a little bit of biographical information because, one, I don't think anybody knows this outside of the people that grew up with you or something.
Right.
So where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Compton.
Okay.
I mean, it was a great place to grow up, though. You know what I mean? There's a lot of activity and a lot of talented people. Just a long story short, I met Lonzo. Lonzo, his family used to have a landscaping business, and so they used to cut our grass every Saturday. And then I met Lonzo. We had a band. We used to rehearse in the garage back in the day, and we used to talk. And he one day mentioned that he was going to start a club. And he had some got some DJs and Dr. Dre, DJ Yella, and you know, a couple more DJs with clientele, and but it kind of, you know, as far as the hip hop thing, it started from there. Before that, I was doing R&B, you know, of course, some funk and all that kind of stuff. So the club was around the corner from my house, so we used to go to the club and watch them DJ and party. I used to, you know, Lonzo lived around the corner. I used to hang around, you know, go watch them practice and stuff, and everything, you know, kind of started from there. Eazy-E would come around, and I met all the guys, Ice Cube, MC Ren, you know, just the whole crew, you know.
So as in this era, this is going on in the early to mid 80s, I would imagine, but I think it's also important for people to understand because of how rap especially has evolved and as music has evolved, and I've talked with Sir Jinx and I talked about this, but as music has evolved, we've lost the musicians, really. It's become so much computer or even to a lesser degree keyboard driven at this point.
Right.
But for you, I wanted you to explain in when you were coming up that there were so many, like, especially black musicians that we see even less and less as time is going on.
Right.
So for you, what was the environment of understanding and knowing black musicianship coming up before you really even got into it?
When I came up, we had a lot of bands. You know, every street that I knew of, we had one band member, or they had a band, or the neighborhood, and we did band competition in the parks. You know, sometimes the radio stations would have, you know, competitions. We started like that, and but when I was coming up, we had music programs in our school.
No, that's true.
And they would let us, you know.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, you know, and all of that stuff been cut out, you know, especially in the inner city. So they would let you take instruments home. They had a band in the school, so you got access to a lot of, you know, options other than hanging in the street and gangs and stuff like that and drugs, whatever. But it was just, you know, I think people just need options in life to, you know, express themselves, and that's what's missing, you know.
Definitely, and I think too, with understanding that and then getting into knowing Lonzo, like, what did you guys see in each other that kind of made you guys click?
He always admired music, you know. So we was practicing in our garage, and he would come to the garage and hang out, and, you know, because evidently he loved music, you know, which everybody does in some form or another. But back then, you know, everybody liked to see a band play, so he used to come and hang out, and and then, you know, so it kind of started from there, you know.
And then what did you notice as, I guess, the Ruthless guys started splintering off from Lonzo and World Class Wrecking Crew? Like, how did you notice the the level of musicianship change or evolve going from the kind of electro music that World Class Wrecking Crew and Lonzo's circle of artists were doing versus what Ruthless ended up becoming?
Well, that's funny, because while they were rehearsing and recording, I also tell Dre, man, let me put some basic guitar on this stuff, you know. You need some basic guitar. He's like, man, this kind of music don't have that kind of instrumentation. So I guess he kept that in the back of his mind. So when he finally left World Class Wrecking Crew, I got a phone call one day from Dre. He's like, man, I need you to come to the studio. I want you to put some basic guitar on this stuff because I can't adjust the bass in it or the guitars in it.
You can't replicate it.
Because it's right, because when you use samples, the levels, it's just 2-track.
Right.
So you can't adjust the kick or the snare or the bass or the guitar. So, and that's how, you know, it started for me coming to replay and, you know, reproduce some of the stuff that.
Do you remember what was the first song that he asked you to get on?
That's a good question.
Nah.
All the weed from back in the day, I can't remember all of it. But I do remember, you know, 8 Ball and, you know, the funny part is with Ruthless, the first act that came out was J.J. Fad. You know what I mean?
Which I think is, I'm glad you brought that up, and it's very important. I remember your name on the back of Supersonic, the album credits. But beyond that, I think a lot of people forget that that J.J. Fad with Supersonic and even Supersonic, the album, really were the ones that really funded Ruthless.
Yeah, they broke Ruthless.
That made Ruthless viable to where Eazy-E, Eazy Does It, and NWA Straight Outta Compton could not necessarily happen per se, but happen the way they did. Yeah,
they got them, you know, got the label out there and got them attention. And from there they branched off, you know, when they had Jerry Heller to, you know, work behind the scenes. But that was the group that did it, because they went platinum for, you know, their...
That's Dre's first gold record, all their first gold.
Yeah, all those guys, yeah. So, but, you know, before that we was doing like the, you know, the 8 Ball and radio, you know, working on some of Eazy stuff.
So on the music side of things, working on, say, Supersonic, the album, versus working on 8 Ball or radio or Eazy-E records more so, like how, as a musician, did you have to adapt, if at all? Like how?
It was quite a challenge, but it seems like it would be simple because coming from R&B and funk, you want to overplay, you know, you want to show how funky you are, and going in the studio to do that, it didn't work. And it was kind of like, you know, because the samples that he wanted to play maybe had like 3 or 4 notes or, you know, wasn't a lot of playing, but it was just a pocket that he wanted.
Right.
So when I would try to overplay, he was like, no, man, no, just do this. Just do the 3 notes or do the 4, whatever it is, do that and do it in a pocket. And it was kind of frustrating, but it's a technique to it. And I had to learn that, though. And I'm not going to say it wasn't easy, but it wasn't, because it was discipline. And
because I think the thing is, growing up, listening to and liking funk to the degree that I did, and you actually being a musician, the difference, I think one of the things to explain is, like, back then those records would be 7 or 8 minutes long, but they'd have solos or they'd have extended guitar things, whereas even if a rap record was 6 minutes long, there wasn't much.
Right. It wasn't about the music, it was about the rapper.
Right.
And that's the part you have to, you know, remember that. Because you don't want to overplay it, the rapper has to rap. So it just keep the loop going and just let it loop and let the rapper, because he's a star of the show, or he or she or whatever. But yeah, that was a lesson I had to learn. And it was a great lesson, though, because what you end up learning is how to play and make your part sound like a loop. And that's what it had to be.
Right.
And still to this day, if you're going to play like a loop, then your part has to sound like a loop on its own, where, you know, and that's what I learned about it. So.
And somebody maybe want to sample you one day.
You know, that's what's up, and, as they should.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, too, speaking of Dre, Dre is credited with producing a lot of stuff by himself at the time, but he's also credited with, he and Yella with High Power Productions, producing stuff together. So when Dre and Yella were working together, what did you see Dre doing? What did you see Yella doing?
Dre was slaving on the beats.
Okay.
And I mean, Yella could do beats too, and he did, you know, definitely work on JJ Fad, stuff like that. But most of the stuff Dre did on like NWA and Eazy. But Yella was the technician. He would be splicing the tapes and putting breaks together. And really, that's the hard part, because back then you had to cut a tape, and tape it together, and it had to come back right on the beat.
Right.
So it'd be a lot of tape on the floor and long hours doing that. So that was definitely one of the major parts of doing that, and that was definitely Yella for doing that, for sure.
Yeah, because I think people kind of misunderstand what production is versus beat making versus all these different roles that goes into actually making music. And I think it's important that these types of things get out there, because Yella, I've interviewed Yella. I did a big interview with him a long time ago for XXL, and we talked about a lot of that. But it's good that people understand that. And one of the records in particular that has a lot of that is Radio by Eazy-E, and
right.
you're actually, you make a cameo on there.
Definitely.
So that was the first time that I know of that I was hearing your voice on a record. So how did that idea and your performance end up on radio?
Well, that's a good story. Because I kept complaining about, where's my money? Because Eazy would come to the studio and he'd be gone sometime. Okay. And he'd be gone, a few days or wherever he's doing. Sometimes it's hard to catch him. I kept telling Drake, man, where's my check? I need my money. He said, call Eazy. So I guess it's stuck in his mind to, since you're talking so much, I'm gonna put you on here. But it wasn't planned or anything like that. So that was a real situation there. But I mean, I got paid, but I'm just saying at that time it was hard to catch Eazy, whatever he was doing.
Yeah.